Space Marines 2 is a game I've had my eye on for a minute, and with early release dropping this week, I decided to do a bunch of research and homework to answer the question, what class should you play? Before we get into specifics for each class, some brief general info. Note, you don't get access to these classes until you're done with the campaign and get access to operations. There are 6 classes in total, and feel free to jump around the video if you like, there will be timestamps. Each class has access to a skill tree organized in the following way: core perks, team perks, gear perks, and signature perks. You're apparently allowed to take only 1 perk from each column, so TLDR, each class will be able to take a total of 8 perks. 3 core perks, 1 team perk, 3 gear perks, and 1 signature perk. If at any point you want to look at an entire spreadsheet of every class perk in the game, I've compiled all of them into a document that I'll have linked down in the pinned comment, because that's how I roll. Finally, in case you're wondering, I'm going to save the class that I'm most excited about for the very end of the video. Oh, and large shout out to the following channels. I wasn't able to play this game early, so the footage I've analyzed for today's video is from them. I'd greatly appreciate it if you checked out their channels. As thanks, you can find all of their links down in the pinned comment. And with all of that in mind, why don't we start off with what I'm officially dubbing the quote beginner-friendly class, the Tactical. To put it a different way, the Tactical is very much looking like Mario in Mario Tennis. In short, decent at everything, with a strong amount of versatility in the weapon department and no glaring weaknesses. It's kind of like you're at a party and someone says, hey, we're ordering Chinese food, what do you want? Picking the Tactical is the equivalent of ordering General Tso's chicken. Are you being adventurous and daring? No, but you know deep down you're taking a safe option that you won't regret. The Tactical is described in the theatrical trailer as a, quote, master of ranged combat due to their wide arsenal of primary weapons. And that definitely seems to be true. You'll notice with the other classes that their weapon selections are fairly limited, but the Tactical does not have that problem. In the primary weapon department, the Tactical has access to all of the following: the auto bolt rifle, the heavy bolt rifle, the stalker bolt rifle, the bolt carbine, the plasma incinerator, and the Melta rifle. Granted, you won't be able to wield all of those at the same time, but in short, the Tactical has a lot of options to choose from depending on what the group might need. In the secondary weapon department, Tactical gets access to the bolt pistol and access to the chain sword as their melee option. Each class in Space Marines 2 will get a unique ability, and the Tactical's unique ability is called Auspex Scan. In short, you launch out a device that sticks to any surface and it highlights any and all enemies within the scanner's limited range. All enemies marked by Auspex Scan are both easier to see, but more importantly, they also take extra damage, not just from you, but your entire fire team as well. According to reading a bunch of perks on the Tactical skill tree, it seems that the Auspex Scan base duration is around 8 seconds, but this can be customized by taking certain perks, like the priority targeting aspect. To repeat what I said earlier, the Tactical seems like a very solid class to take if you want a standard, non-complicated class that any team would be happy to have. You got plenty of ranged options that you can swap between depending on what the fire team might need, and the Auspex Scan seems like a rock-solid ability with no real downsides. Fire it into a clump of enemies and bam, now they take extra damage from everybody. If your squad has other ranged weapon users, it seems like a no-brainer to include a Tactical in the group. You have access to team perks like Communion of Fire, which lowers weapon recoil for everyone, or even Aligned Aim, where everyone using a ranged weapon just gets a free outgoing damage buff. TLDR, pick the Tactical if you want a ranged combat character, you want flexibility in your weapon options, you want to help the team with a solid debuff ability, you have a heavy, sniper, or Vanguard teammate who you want to buff. Next up, why don't we cover something a bit more extreme, Assault. Where the Tactical is primarily about ranged combat and versatility, the Assault class puts a heavy focus on melee combat. The Assault's bread and butter involves leaping up into the air and then crashing down into a bunch of enemies and smashing all of them with a giant hammer. Not to put too fine a point on it, but if you have little interest in regular gunplay and would rather just mash your enemies into a fine paste up close, then yeah, you may be interested in playing Assault. Weapon-wise, the Assault has access to 0 primary ranged weapons, as far as I know. They do get access to either a bolt pistol or heavy bolt pistol, so you won't be 100% without a ranged attack option. But yeah, most of the time you'll be swinging away like Joaquin Phoenix at the end of Signs. Interestingly, Assault players have a few melee options they can choose from: the Chain Sword, the Power Fist, and the Thunder Hammer. I'm sure that as you progress and upgrade these options, the differences between these three will be more and more apparent. Maybe some focusing on single target damage while others focus on area of effect damage, unsure at this time. The ability for the Assault class, as I already kind of mentioned, the jump pack. Basically, every clip I've seen of the Assault being played shows a ton of jump pack usage, indicating it probably has a decently fast cooldown time. Also, it seems to be very accurate, as in first you blast up into the sky, but you can essentially choose where you crash down to earth with near pinpoint accuracy. Taking a gander at the Assault skill tree, as you can probably imagine, a lot of focus on melee damage in particular. But it's not always that crude. You have options like Act of Attrition. Enemies hit by melee attacks take 10% more damage for 3 seconds. In short, if there's a big target your team needs to focus on, you can not only engage the enemy yourself, but make sure your teammates are doing more damage to it as well. Of course, the Assault also seems like a great pick if your team is made up of other melee-heavy characters, which there are. If you're rolling in a melee beat-em-up squad, you might want to think about taking strategic strikes to mash through terminus enemies way easier. TLDR, pick Assault if you want extreme heavy melee combat, you want some good mobility and crowd control, you have Bulwark or Vanguard teammates who would benefit from your melee team buffs. Alright, but what if you want some melee combat, but maybe not to the extremes of the Assault class? You want to be on the front lines, getting your hands dirty, but you don't want to completely abandon all your ranged weapon options. If that sounds kind of good to you, you might be interested in the Vanguard, which seems to be kind of a hybrid between tactical and Assault. Why don't we take a look at the Vanguard weapon selection? Under the primary weapon umbrella, they seem to have access to the Instigator and Oculus Bolt carbines, as well as the Melter rifle, which, despite having the word rifle in the name, is apparently just a straight-up shotgun. So as you can see, nowhere near as many primary weapon options as the tactical, but not zero options like Assault. For secondary weapons, Vanguard only gets access to the Bolt pistol, and for melee, it is the standard chainsword, but also the combat knife, which is described as a high-speed dueling melee weapon. In many of the clips I've watched of the Vanguard, the combat knife seems to be the real go-to melee weapon option. By the way, now would probably be a good time to talk about the Vanguard ability, Grapnel Launcher. In short, use a grappling hook to lock on and propel directly to one particular enemy on the battlefield and kick them immediately in the face. Whereas the Assault's jetpack ability seems to be more focused on crowd control, the Grapnel Launcher appears to be much more of a fuck you in particular type play where you directly lock onto and attack one specific dude and then go to town on him. Taking a look at the Vanguard skill tree, perks seem to be focused naturally on melee damage and maneuverability, but also perfect parrying if that's a thing you're into. For example, Duelist increases your perfect parry window by a whopping 50%, while Thrill of the Fight lets you take less damage after executing a perfectly timed parry or dodge. Pairing a Vanguard together on the same team as an Assault player, though, seems like a really smart idea, as the Vanguard gets access to a perk called Melee Champion. All squad members deal 15% more melee damage. One of the signature perks in particular looks wild. Emperor's Blessing. Taking lethal damage restores all armor instead of incapacitating you. Basically, every 3 minutes you can give the Grim Reaper the middle finger when taking damage that would otherwise knock you out of the fight. TLDR, pick Vanguard if you want a good mixture of both gunplay and melee combat, you want to be aggressive and choice target specific enemies on the battlefield, you have Bulwark or Assault teammates who would benefit from your melee team buffs. Alright, moving right along. Say you want to focus more on gunplay, but you'd rather have a specific focus on accuracy and headshot damage rather than just having a grab bag of weapons like the tactical. Well, in that case, why don't we talk about the Sniper? As you probably guessed, the Sniper's main focus is long-range precision damage, which it can achieve quite easily thanks to its available primary weapon pool, which includes the Stalker Bolt Rifle, the Bolt Sniper Rifle, the Bolt Carbine, and Las Fusil, a name I'm extremely sure I didn't just butcher, which is a badass name for a very high damage sniper rifle with a charge up time. For my fellow Destiny 2 players out there, think linear fusion rifle. Oddly enough, the sniper skill tree isn't just ranged damage buffs, although there's a fair amount of that for sure. It also has some melee perks though, like Melee Mastery, same as the Vanguard, and also adaptability. The sniper also has some healing type benefits like Medicae Adept, which allows you to revive fallen teammates faster. And I found all of that fairly confusing until I saw the sniper ability, Camo Cloak, which allows you to go completely invisible for a short period of time. Then it all made sense. In short, basically spend your time popping heads from the back of the fire team with high damage rifles, and if you get overwhelmed, you have a few melee options, or you can just hit the camo button and roll out of danger to reposition and get back into ideal sniping range. Or if your teammates get downed, you can camo right on over to them and get the world's safest revive. I don't think there's any confusion or surprises here. Basically, if you want to get sick headshots and do massive ranged damage from far away, the sniper would be a good pick. If you're either a Vanguard or a tactical, it would be a very good idea to include a sniper on your team just for the marksmanship perk alone, which bumps up headshot damage for literally the entire team, or even precision targeting perk if your gun-wielding teammates are a bit more spammy. TLDR, pick sniper if you want weapon-focused high-damage combat, you'd rather spend your time lining up headshots as opposed to wild bullet spam, you want to use camo tech to be sneaky or helpful to the team in general, you have tactical or Vanguard teammates who would benefit from your weapon damage buffs. Okay, 4 down, 2 to go. Next up, our final gun-focused class, the Heavy. Whereas the tactical is the versatile, well-rounded weapon guy, and the sniper is the long-range precision guy, the Heavy is your classic big damn dude with a big damn gun. Think Team Fortress Heavy. Your main goal is to waddle onto the front lines, hold down the trigger, and turn enemies into confetti with hard-hitting crowd control guns. Primary-wise, the Heavy gets access to the Heavy Bolter, the Heavy Plasma Incinerator, or a Multi-Melta. They do have secondary options in the form of a plasma pistol or bolt pistol, and no melee options at all. Let the bullets fly and shred through waves of dudes till the cows come home. The Heavy ability is called Iron Halo, create a powerful barrier blocking all ranged damage. Again, my fellow D2 players, think Ward of Dawn. Halo players, think Bubble Shield. Activate it for some clutch protection when you or the team needs it. Worth noting though that from the footage I've watched, it seems that the Iron Halo attaches to and moves with your player, as opposed to just being put in a stationary location on the ground. Taking a look at the Heavy skill tree, there are quite a few options that really focus on crowd control, including perks that only turn on once you've killed at least 15 enemies in rapid succession, including Restoration, Auxiliary Ammunition, and Consecutive Execution. I'm really torn because on paper, the Heavy seems very plain and basic in their playstyle. Hold down the trigger, unleash Bullet Hurricane, I am big strong man, but a lot of these perks look really good. Encompassing Aegis makes your entire team take less damage from ranged attacks, and Fortitude just gives you a flat-out health buff with no activation criteria at all. The playstyle may be simple, but the Heavy knows exactly what they're about, and I respect that. TLDR, pick Heavy if you want weapon-focused combat that doesn't focus on accuracy. You want to be the team ad clear guy and mow through waves of enemies. You want to be beefy and hard to kill. You have tactical Vanguard, sniper, or Bulwark teammates who can potentially benefit from your ranged defense or ammo buffs. Finally, we get to the class I'm probably looking forward to the most, Bulwark, the third and final melee-focused class in the game. Whereas the Assault option is more of a crowd control melee class, and the Vanguard is kind of choice targeting, nimble grappling hook agility melee, the Bulwark seems to be beefy heavy melee tank, seriously good luck trying to kill me type of class. Like Assault, the Bulwark has extremely limited weapon selection. 0 primary ranged weapons at all, and in the secondary department only a bolt pistol or a plasma pistol. The Bulwark's true primary equipment is a giant shield paired together with a chainsword, power fist, or the power sword melee option. It's worth noting that the Bulwark is the only class able to wield the power sword, so it's very likely their bread and butter. Good old-fashioned sword and shield monster killing. The Bulwark ability is called Chapter Banner. Basically, you plant a rally flag into the ground during combat, and you restore armor to all squad members in the area of effect. Swear to God, I'm going to stop referencing D2 at some point, but in the meantime, yeah, this is basically a junior version of Radiant Well. I know I roasted the Heavy not too long ago for having a very simple, borderline boring gameplay loop on paper, and yeah, I'll admit the Bulwark ain't that that different. Little to no ranged option, just sword and shield, hack and slash. But the reason I'm so interested in the Bulwark is that they seem to be just a bit above the heavy in terms of raw survivability. That's what I want, to be notoriously difficult to kill in PvE content. The Bulwark skill tree is just jam-packed with gobs of damage reduction and armor regen. Conviction, scrambled targeting, steel within, unyielding ceramite, invigorating icon, glory shield, and emergency countermeasure are all perks I plan on running together to truly turn into a massive pain in the ass for my enemies on the battlefield. Will I miss ranged damage? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I'll be the last guy standing knee-deep in carved-up enemies of the Emperor, that's for damn sure. TLDR, play Bulwark if you want melee-focused combat, your primary focus is survivability, you want to hack and slash, you have assault, heavy, or Vanguard teammates who can potentially benefit from your armor buffs. If you're watching today's video on Wednesday, I am likely streaming this game right now live on Twitch, and I have free game codes to give away. No, this is not a joke. Today is a great day. Swing by the stream and join me for some good old-fashioned grinding, ring the notification bell, and sub for more Space Marines 2 content, and remember, the Emperor protects.